The principal ran into the cafeteria screaming, "Who posted the video?" The entire cafeteria went silent. About 30 kids immediately pulled out their phones. I wasn't one of them. I had no idea what video she was talking about, but I watched everyone around me start scrolling, searching, their faces confused or curious or worried. Then Principal Hewitt said, "The one from the girls' bathroom." I turned to look at my best friend Aiden sitting across from me. His face had gone completely white, not pale, white, like every drop of blood had drained from his body in an instant. Principal Hewitt walked further into the cafeteria. 2 security guards flanked her, Officer Daniels and Officer Kim. Both had their radios in hand. This wasn't a drill. This wasn't a lecture about appropriate social media use. This was serious. Principal Hewitt's voice shook when she spoke again. "Someone in this school recorded a video in the girls' bathroom, 3rd floor, during second period today. That video was posted to multiple platforms 20 minutes ago. It's been viewed over 500 times already, and I want to know who did it. Right now." The cafeteria erupted in whispers, kids looking at each other, pulling up social media, searching for the video. I didn't move. I just stared at Aiden. He wouldn't look at me. His eyes were fixed on the table, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. I leaned forward and whispered his name. "Aiden." Nothing. "Aiden, look at me." He didn't move. My stomach dropped. I'd known Aiden my entire life. We'd been inseparable since elementary school. He was the brother I'd never had. We told each other everything. Every secret. Every stupid thing we'd done. Every girl we liked. Everything. But right now, he wouldn't even look at me, and that meant something was very, very wrong. I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram. Started scrolling through stories. Nothing. Snapchat. Nothing. TikTok. And then I found it. The video was grainy, shot from inside a bathroom stall. The camera was positioned low, angled up toward the sinks and mirror. You could see the bottom half of the stall door and the gap underneath it. The video was 2 minutes long. I didn't want to watch it. Didn't want to see what had made Principal Hewitt look like that. But I pressed play anyway. The first 30 seconds showed nothing. Just an empty bathroom. Then the door opened and a girl walked in. I recognized her immediately. Madison Fletcher, Jr., straight A student, student council, volleyball team. She walked to the sink and set down her backpack. Then she started crying. Not quiet tears. Full sobbing. The kind that shakes your whole body. Madison stood at that sink for over a minute just crying. She looked around like she was making sure she was alone. Then she pulled something from her backpack. A pregnancy test. My hands started shaking. I wanted to stop watching, but I couldn't. Madison opened the test with trembling hands, read the instructions, paced the bathroom. Then she went into a stall. The camera angle showed her feet under the door. The rustling sounds. The waiting. When she came back out, she set the test on the sink counter and stared at it. The video showed her face in the mirror. The hope, the fear, the waiting. Then she picked up the test and her face crumbled. She slid down the wall and sat on the bathroom floor crying so hard she could barely breathe. The video ended there, but it had been posted with a caption. "Madison Fletcher is pregnant. Share before she deletes it." My throat closed up. This wasn't just the invasion of privacy. This was someone's most vulnerable private moment exposed to the entire school, to the entire internet. I looked up from my phone and searched the cafeteria for Madison. Found her sitting at a table in the far corner with her friends. Her face was in her hands. Her friends were surrounding her, blocking her from view. But I could see her shoulders shaking. She was crying the same way she'd cried in that video. The same devastating, world-ending sobs. And everyone was watching her. Everyone had seen her most private moment. Principal Hewitt's voice rang out again. "I want whoever posted this video to come forward right now. You have one chance to take responsibility before we involve law enforcement." Nobody moved. The cafeteria was completely silent, except for the sound of Madison crying in the corner. Principal Hewitt waited 30 seconds. 1 minute. 2. Then she nodded to the security guards. "Lock the doors. Nobody leaves until we figure out who did this." Officer Daniels and Officer Kim moved to the exits. Pulled the doors closed. The click of the locks echoed through the space. 300 students trapped, and somewhere among them was the person who'd destroyed Madison's life. I looked at Aiden again. He still wouldn't meet my eyes. His hands were shaking. I felt sick. No way. Aiden wouldn't do something like this. He couldn't. He was a good person. He volunteered at the animal shelter. He helped his little sister with homework. He was the guy who stood up for kids getting bullied. There was no possible way he had anything to do with this video. But then, why did he look like he was about to pass out? I leaned closer and whispered again, "Dude, what's going on?" He finally looked at me. His eyes were wide, panicked. He opened his mouth like he was going to say something, then closed it, shook his head, looked away. Principal Hewitt pulled out her phone and made a call. Her voice carried across the silent cafeteria. "Yes, I need police at Riverside High School immediately. We have a situation involving illegal recording and distribution of explicit content involving a minor." My stomach lurched. Explicit content involving a minor. That meant this wasn't just a school discipline issue. This was criminal. Whoever posted that video wasn't just getting suspended. They were getting arrested, charged with a crime. This was real consequences. Adult consequences. I watched Aiden's face and saw the exact moment that information hit him. His eyes went even wider. His breathing got faster. He looked like he might throw up. 2 police officers arrived within 10 minutes. They walked into the cafeteria with Principal Hewitt, and she pointed them toward Madison's table. One officer, a woman with her hair in a tight bun, crouched down next to Madison, talked to her quietly. Madison nodded and stood up, walked out of the cafeteria with the officers and Principal Hewitt. Her friends followed. The cafeteria erupted in whispers the moment they left, everyone talking at once, speculating. I heard Madison's name over and over, heard people discussing the video. Some kids were still watching it on their phones, rewatching it, sharing it to more people, making it worse. I wanted to scream at them to stop, but I couldn't find my voice. The second officer, a tall man with a buzz cut, walked to the center of the cafeteria. He held up a hand for silence, and somehow the entire room went quiet. My name is Detective Bowen. I'm with the Cybercrimes Unit. What happened here today is a serious criminal offense. Recording someone in a bathroom without their consent is illegal. Distributing that recording is illegal. If the recording contains anyone under 18 in a state of undress or engaged in private acts, that's production and distribution of child exploitation material. That's a federal offense. Whoever posted this video is looking at felony charges. Prison time, registration as a sex offender for life. The cafeteria went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Detective Bowen continued. We're going to review security footage from the 3rd floor. We're going to trace the IP addresses of every device that uploaded this video to social media. We're going to check every phone, every laptop, every tablet. We will find who did this. So I'm going to give you one opportunity. If you posted this video or if you know who did, come forward now. Cooperation will be taken into account. Waiting until we find you through investigation will not help you. He waited. Nobody moved. Aiden's hands were shaking so badly, his phone rattled against the table. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed his wrist under the table and squeezed hard, whispered, urgent and low. If you know something, you need to tell me right now. Aiden's voice came out barely audible. I didn't post it. Relief flooded through me so fast I felt dizzy. He didn't post it. He didn't do this. But then why did he look so guilty? But you know who did. It wasn't a question. Aiden closed his eyes, nodded once. Who? He shook his head. I can't say. Aiden, they're going to find out anyway. You heard the detective? They're checking security footage, IP addresses, everything. If you know who did it and you don't say anything, you could get charged as an accessory. His eyes flew open. What? If you knew about a crime and didn't report it, that makes you part of it. You could go down too. I didn't actually know if that was true, but it sounded true, and I needed Aiden to talk. He looked around the cafeteria like he was checking if anyone could hear us. Then he leaned in close. It was Garrett. My blood ran cold. Garrett Lynch, Aiden's other best friend. The 3 of us had been inseparable since freshman year. Garrett was the funny one, the guy who made everyone laugh, the guy who pushed boundaries and did stupid things but never anything actually harmful. At least that's what I'd thought. Garrett posted the video? Aiden shook his head. No, he recorded it, but he didn't post it. He showed it to some people and someone else posted it without him knowing. That was somehow worse. Garrett had recorded Madison's most vulnerable moment and then shared it like it was entertainment. And now it was everywhere, destroying her life. I sat back in my chair feeling like I'd been punched. How do you know this? Aiden's voice was shaking. Because I was with him. When he set up the camera, the world tilted. You what? He asked me to help him. Said he wanted to prank someone, record them singing in the bathroom or doing their makeup or something. I helped him prop his phone in the stall during first period. I thought it was just a stupid joke. I didn't know he was going to record Madison crying. I didn't know about the pregnancy test. I swear I didn't know. His voice broke. And then during third period he showed me the video. He was laughing, said it was hilarious. I told him to delete it immediately, but he'd already shown it to other people. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My best friend had helped record that video, had been part of this. You need to tell Detective Bowen right now. Aiden grabbed my arm. I can't. If I tell them, they'll charge me too. I helped set up the phone. That makes me part of it even though I didn't know what it was for. So, you're just going to let Garrett get away with this? Let Madison suffer while you stay quiet? I'm not letting him get away with it. They'll find him anyway. They said they're checking security footage. They'll see us going into the bathroom. They'll figure it out. I just need to stay quiet until then. I jerked my arm away from him. That's bullshit and you know it. You're being a coward. Aiden's face flushed red. I'm not a coward. I'm trying to protect myself. Do you know what happens to registered sex offenders? They can't get jobs, can't live near schools. They're on a public list forever. My entire life would be destroyed. And what about Madison's life? You think she's not destroyed right now? You think this isn't ruining her? Aiden looked away, didn't answer. I stood up so fast my chair scraped loudly against the floor. Half the cafeteria turned to look at me. I didn't care. I walked toward Detective Bowen standing near the door. Aiden hissed my name behind me, but I ignored him. I walked right up to the detective and said the words that would end my friendship, but maybe save my conscience. I know who recorded the video. Detective Bowen's eyes sharpened. Come with me. He led me out of the cafeteria into the hallway. Principal Hewitt was there talking to Madison and her mother. Madison's mom had her arm around her daughter, both of them crying. Madison looked up when we walked past. Our eyes met for just a second. She looked so small, so broken. I had to look away. Detective Bowen led me to an empty classroom and closed the door, pulled out a notepad. "What's your name?" "Isaiah Cooper." He wrote it down. "Tell me what you know." I told him everything. About Garrett recording the video. About Aiden helping him set up the phone. About Garrett sharing it with people and someone else posting it. Detective Bowen wrote everything down without interrupting. When I finished, he looked up. "How do you know all this?" "Aiden told me, just now, in the cafeteria." "And you're willing to make a formal statement?" I hesitated. This would destroy my friendship with Aiden. He'd never forgive me. But Madison's face flashed in my mind. Her sobbing on that bathroom floor. Her humiliation being broadcast to hundreds of people. "Yes." Detective Bowen nodded. "Wait here." He left the room. I sat in one of the student desks and put my head in my hands. What had I just done? I just ratted out my two best friends. Aiden would hate me forever. Garrett would probably want to kill me. But what else could I have done? Let them get away with destroying Madison's life? Pretend I didn't know anything while she suffered? Detective Bowen came back with another officer. They asked me to repeat my statement. Then they asked me to write it all down on an official form, sign it, date it. My hand shook while I wrote. When I finished, Detective Bowen took the paper. "Thank you for coming forward. This is the right thing to do." It didn't feel like the right thing. It felt like betrayal, like I'd just blown up my entire social life. But I nodded anyway. They let me leave the classroom, told me to go back to the cafeteria. I walked down the hallway in a daze, pushed through the cafeteria doors. Every eye in the room turned to me. Aiden stood up from our table, his face furious. I could see him mouthing, "What did you do?" across the space. I couldn't face him. I walked to a different table, sat alone. 10 minutes later, Officer Daniels and Detective Bowen walked back into the cafeteria. They scanned the room. Then Detective Bowen pointed. "Garrett Lynch and Aiden Foster, come with us, now." The cafeteria exploded in whispers. Everyone turned to look at Garrett and Aiden. Garrett's face went white. He looked around like he was considering running, but there was nowhere to go. The doors were locked. Security guards at every exit. He stood up slowly. Aiden stood too. They walked toward the officers. As they passed my table, Aiden looked right at me. The betrayal in his eyes was like a physical blow. He knew I'd told. He knew I'd turned them in, and he'd never forgive me. They took Garrett and Aiden out of the cafeteria. The doors closed behind them. The entire room started talking at once. Everyone had their theories, their opinions. Most people were saying Garrett deserved whatever happened. He'd always been a dick, always pushed things too far. But some people were defending him, saying it was just a prank gone wrong, that he shouldn't have his life ruined over a stupid mistake. I wanted to scream at them that recording someone's private breakdown wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, a cruel, deliberate choice. But I stayed quiet, let them talk. I had no friends left to defend me anyway. I'd made sure of that. Principal Hewitt returned to the cafeteria an hour later. She looked exhausted. "Students, we're going to release you in groups. But before you leave, I want to be very clear. The video that was posted today is still circulating online. If any of you have that video on your phone, delete it immediately. If any of you shared that video, remove those posts. Possessing or distributing this video is illegal. You could face criminal charges. I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. Delete it. Now." Around the cafeteria, kids pulled out their phones. I watched dozens of them scrolling, deleting, removing posts. But I knew it was too late. Once something is online, it's online forever. Madison's private moment would follow her for the rest of her life. They released us 20 minutes later. I grabbed my backpack and headed for the parking lot. My phone buzzed constantly. Text messages flooding in. I pulled it out and checked. Most were from Aiden. "I can't believe you told them. You're dead to me. You just ruined my entire life. I hope you're happy." I deleted them without responding. What could I say? That I was sorry? I wasn't. I'd do it again. Another text came in from a number I didn't recognize. I almost deleted it without reading, but something made me open it. "This is Madison's friend Bree. Madison wanted me to tell you thank you for coming forward. It means everything." I stared at that message for a long time. Saved it. It didn't make me feel better, but it made me feel less terrible. The news broke the next day. Local news stations were reporting that 2 Riverside High School students had been arrested in connection with illegal recording and distribution of private images. They didn't name Garrett and Aiden because they were minors, but everyone at school knew. The story spread fast. By lunch, Garrett's parents had hired a lawyer. A good one. The kind that gets kids from wealthy families reduced charges. Aiden's parents couldn't afford that kind of attorney. He got a public defender. I heard through the grapevine that Garrett was trying to make a deal, claiming it was all Aiden's idea, that Aiden had set up the phone and Garrett had just found the video later, lying to save himself while throwing Aiden under the bus. Their friendship was as dead as mine and Aiden's. Madison didn't come back to school for 2 weeks. When she finally returned, she looked different, thinner, paler. She kept her head down in the hallways, didn't make eye contact with anyone. Her friends surrounded her like bodyguards. I wanted to say something to her, to apologize even though I hadn't done anything wrong, to tell her I'd tried to help, but what could I say that wouldn't make it worse? Sorry everyone saw your most vulnerable moment. There were no words that could fix this, so I stayed silent, watched her from a distance, hoped she was okay, even though I knew she probably wasn't. The legal process dragged on for months. Garrett's expensive lawyer managed to get his charges reduced. He pled guilty to unlawful surveillance, got probation, community service, had to register as a sex offender, but his lawyer was already filing appeals to get that removed from his record. His parents paid for private school out of state. He was gone within a month, escaped the consequences of what he'd done by running away to a new life where nobody knew his name. Aiden wasn't as lucky. His public defender advised him to take a plea deal. He pled guilty to conspiracy to commit unlawful surveillance, got probation, 300 hours of community service, had to write a formal apology to Madison, and his name went on the registry. No appeals, no second chances. I ran into Aiden 6 months later at the grocery store. We'd successfully avoided each other at school for half a year, different lunch periods, different routes to class, but here we were, standing in the cereal aisle, face to face. He looked tired, older. The light that used to be in his eyes was gone. We stared at each other for a long moment. Then he spoke. "You destroyed my life." His voice was flat, empty. "You destroyed Madison's life first. I was trying to protect you by not telling. You didn't have to say anything." "Yeah, I did, because it was the right thing to do. Even if you can't see that." Aiden shook his head. "I can't get into any colleges now. Every application asks about criminal history. I can't live near schools. Do you know how that limits where I can work? Where I can live? You did this to me." I felt my anger rising. "No, you did this to yourself when you helped Garrett set up that phone. You made a choice. You have to live with the consequences. Just like Madison has to live with the consequences of what you did to her. I didn't know what Garrett was going to record, but you knew it was wrong. You knew recording someone without permission in a bathroom was wrong. You just didn't care until it affected you." Aiden's face flushed red. "At least I tried to protect you. You turned on me the first chance you got." "I didn't turn on you. I told the truth. There's a difference." We stood there in the cereal aisle glaring at each other. 8 years of friendship reduced to this: anger and blame and regret. Finally, Aiden walked away. Didn't say goodbye, just left. I watched him go and felt nothing but tired. Madison graduated a year later. I saw her at the ceremony. She gave a speech as valedictorian, talked about resilience, about surviving things you never thought you could survive, about how our worst moments don't have to define us. She never mentioned the video, never mentioned Garrett or Aiden, but everyone knew what she was talking about. When she finished speaking, the entire auditorium stood up and applauded. She cried, the good kind of tears this time, not the devastating sobs from that bathroom. These were tears of relief, of making it through, of surviving. I clapped until my hands hurt. It wasn't enough. Nothing would ever be enough to undo what had been done to her, but it was something. I graduated too, got into college across the country, wanted distance from Riverside and everything that had happened there. On my last day of school, I found a note in my locker. No name, no signature, just 4 words written in handwriting I recognized as Madison's. "Thank you for speaking." I folded that note carefully, put it in my wallet, carried it with me to college, carried it through the guilt and the second guessing and the nights when I wondered if I'd made the right choice. That note reminded me that speaking up mattered, that doing the right thing cost something, but silence cost more, that Madison had survived because someone had cared enough to tell the truth. Aiden and I never spoke again. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd moved out of state, changed his name legally, was trying to build a new life somewhere people didn't know his past. I hoped he'd learned something from what happened, hoped he understood why I'd done what I did, but I doubted it. Some people never take responsibility for their actions. They just blame everyone else and run away. Garrett was the same. Last I heard, he was at some private university on his parents' money, pretending the past never happened. The registry followed him, but his wealth insulated him from most consequences. He'd probably go through life never truly understanding the damage he'd caused, never feeling real remorse, just resentment that he'd been caught. But Madison thrived. I followed her on social media from a distance, watched her go to college, join advocacy groups, start speaking publicly about privacy rights and cyber exploitation. She turned her worst moment into purpose, used her pain to help other people. That took a kind of strength I couldn't comprehend. The video still existed somewhere online, would probably exist forever, but Madison refused to let it define her. She defined herself, and in doing that, she won. Not in a legal sense, not in a way that undid the harm, but in the way that mattered most. She survived, she healed, she fought back, and she made sure what happened to her would be harder for someone to do to someone else. 3 years after graduation, I got a message from Madison on Instagram. "I heard your pre-law. If you're still planning to be a lawyer, I hope you fight for people who can't fight for themselves. The world needs more people like you. People who speak up when it costs them something. Thank you for being that person when it mattered most. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.